at the church and I'm at the church board. Bored at the church and I'm at the church board. Bored at the church and I'm at the church board. Bored at the church and I'm at the church board. Bored at the church, bored at the church board. Bored at the church and I'm at the church board. Bored at the church and I'm at the church board. Bored at the church, bored at the church board. Bored at the church, bored at the church board. Okay, well, let's dive back into Colossians, guys. We're stepping back into chapter 3. We talked last week about putting on the new nature, what it looks like to put on the nature of Christ in our lives. And maybe for some of you that's getting a little bit more real as boredom sets in, as frustration sets in, as time with your parents and your siblings is getting real old. You're really starting to feel that fleshly human nature. You want to lash out. You want to get mean. But the interesting thing is Paul says here in chapter 14, above all things, put on love, for love binds all things together. You see, when we hit these moments of frustration, so often we want to react. And even in our best moments, we're reacting in forgiveness. Someone offends us, someone hurts us, and after being frustrated for a minute or two, we go and pray, we start to feel a little guilty, we feel God working on our conscience, so we go back to forgive. But when Paul tells us to put on this new nature, when he tells us to clothe ourselves in love, when he tells us to make allowance for each other's faults, it's really something quite different. You see, when Paul tells us to make allowance, the word in Greek actually means to bear up or to hold up. It's this idea of if you saw your friend fall, if you were out playing sports and they took a real dive and hurt themselves, you wouldn't make them stand up on their own and then go over and ask them how they're doing. You would go over there and you would help pick them up. That's what Paul's teaching us here in regards to forgiveness. We don't react in forgiveness. We actually build forgiveness up in ourselves by investing in the Lord. You see, it's a bit like if you had a bank account or a college fund. Many of you are beginning to save up for cars, for college, for this future life ahead of you. And what Paul is saying is invest in forgiveness. Let the Lord build forgiveness in you, so that way when someone comes and they offend you and they hurt you, you're already ready to forgive them because you're already indwelled with forgiveness. It's really interesting in this passage because when Paul says, if any of you has a complaint against one another, this word against is actually this Greek word pros, and it deals with people in close proximity to you. And many of us are feeling that. You're maybe looking over at the couch at your little sister or brother, and they are annoying the heck out of you. You know what? Paul's talking right to you here. He says, if you have a complaint against those around you, the exhortation of God is this: invest in forgiveness, invest in this new nature, this divine nature, and God, through you, will live out this life of forgiveness. The Lord Jesus promises in the Gospels, offenses will come, difficulties will come, complaints will come. But the promise of Jesus is this: you'll be ready because He's already built up a reservoir of forgiveness in you. So, love you guys. God bless. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.